Welcome to Ahead of the Game.
Ooh,
My voice is
you're really
struggling.
so lean into it. I like that you just leaned into it straight away.
It's going to be this little soulful little episode where we just
Oh,
lo-fi and get in underneath your skin.
wow! Finally, people might enjoy listening to you, mate. Instead of that octa twang.
And then a nasally twang still comes through. Oh, mate, good to be back on.
Yes,
Even though
absolutely.
I can't speak, but there's been some big things happening in the sporting world, and you got some big calls to take, and we're gonna bring back Chat GPT KO, the best.
That's right.
Best
segment in
going.
Sports, TV, radio, online.
And there's some good stuff to talk around about the two, or the matchup we have today. So it's in the news, so to speak.
All
but
right.
First and foremost, big call, new segment.
Big calls.
Take it away.
Yeah, big calls. Look, maybe not my own personal big call. I haven't come up with this big call, but it's a big call that's going out there at the moment. And you know what? I agree. It's very warranted, and that is Payne Haas becoming the best, most unique front rower of all time in the NRL? The call is, he is.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, he's doing stuff that we've never seen in the game before. He's an absolute beast. It's not just like, it's the transformation of the game that sort of happened over the last, 5 to 10 years, maybe, of these versatile forwards being, you're more than just a big bopper like that runs off the back fence and goes straight at the line, which was great. Like, don't get me wrong, you got to appreciate that sort of stuff as well, because that's like, that was the base of the game and the base of how a front rower had to be back in the day, or back when we, were born and growing up watching rugby league. But now front rowers have to give a little bit more. The speed of the game is much quicker. The NRL or the league has done so much to speed up the game. So transformations have to happen. And Payne Haas is the perfect example of that. Like, he's breaking tackles. He's putting up line breaks. He's putting in try assists. And then he's also able to back that up with strong defense. And I think that's what makes him this level above everybody else. Is, like, I check now, like this season, he has a 99% tackle efficiency. So he's not missing tackles, and he's also like leading the league in tackle busts. So it's like the two perfect things. He's creating missed tackles, and then he's the perfect defender in the middle. Like, and you see the work he's doing. He ran for 210 run meters last week against the Cowboys. Like, you see that from backs, because obviously they're getting sort of the free yardage when they're doing kick returns, and then they're also often, involved in pretty substantial line breaks. When Payne Haas is making line breaks, they're through the middle. They're not on the edges. So if he can get through the middle, then you well earn those extra meters.
Yeah.
And he's like averaging 181 run meters in the 3 games this year for Brisbane. So like, I'm throwing it out there that he's going to be the best we have ever seen, and he's going to eventually, a long way down the track, be an immortal and be one of these players where you're like, okay, he transformed the NRL for front rowers.
I think we've seen like multiple transformations of front rowers just in our lifetime. You remember back to how different Paul Harrigan was, the Chief for Newcastle, with his body type. It was a lot taller and like lean. But even before that, you look back in these old videos, you're not getting like massive front rowers. Sometime around the start of the 2000s, or maybe just at the end of the 90s, you were getting the big boys like Glenn Lazarus. He was big.
Tony Carroll.
Who else?
Right.
Yeah, but he was still like a shorter, but still a bit wider.
Martin Lang.
Who else?
Martin Lang was also starting to transform a little bit.
Yeah, Martin Lang. Yeah, like guy. Yeah. And then you had this kind of influx of younger guys coming through that had a lot of weight, a lot of size. And remember like how Canberra were built their whole forward pack were 130 kgs and
This is it.
like 190 centimeters tall. It was like, but they
Yeah,
didn't have the stamina, so they were just
yeah,
like bang bang, and there were 4 forwards on the bench because they needed to rotate out. And
yeah,
then that was everyone wanted to have that, and Melbourne had it, and Canberra had it, and the Roosters had it, and everyone had it.
mm,
And then
mm,
now, like you're saying, you're seeing this return back to a more mobile forward pack. I think Brisbane were one of the first to do it with Paddy Carrigan and the
mm,
like. And then you're seeing, Payne Haas coming through there as well.
yeah,
And Terrell May, another one for the
yeah,
Tigers. He played
yeah,
60, I think it was 65 minutes
mm,
straight. Obviously, you have
mm,
half time in the middle there, but the whole first half and then 26 minutes in the second half.
yeah,
Not last weekend, I think it was the weekend before, but I mean that's unheard
huge.
of for a front rower.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
it's and as you say, it's revolutionizing the game because these guys are game breakers and
mm,
they're effectively winning so much for their team that you
yeah.
cannot not have it in your team.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. You've got to match it somehow because you're just going to get left behind
Mm,
because these guys are, like you said, they're breaking the game. You
yeah.
take them out, Brisbane aren't half as good. If you take Payne Haas out, they're
Yeah, we
able to
see it
do
last year
things on.
when he was
Yeah,
injured.
yeah, yeah. Exactly right. 100%. All right, next one. Look, there's a couple on the cards, but I'm gonna make a big call here. I'm gonna make a big call and say, come September, we're talking about the possibility of the Kangaroos making the AFL finals. What they did
Wow.
to Melbourne,
This is even a surprise for me.
what they did to Melbourne was astonishing, and we felt that they've been building. And I think I made the call that maybe Western Bulldogs should have done better by not smashing the Kangaroos by more in their first match of the AFL. But we saw what the Western Bulldogs were, and now we see, okay, well, look like they they beat Melbourne by almost 100. Like that's unheard of. Melbourne put it up against GWS, who are a top
Mm.
tip team to be like top four. So if we're going just off these results, that's why it's called big calls because of making a big call. They're going to be sniffing around. I'm not going to say they're going to make the 8, but they're going to be sniffing around the 8 at the around September. In August, we're going to be talking about their possibilities.
I just looking up now, North Melbourne to make the 8. You're not getting double digits anymore.
No,
You're not
so
getting double digits on those
there you
odds.
go. Yeah, they're just
Where
playing well. Like I don't know. I
how
just
many
see that
wins do they have to have in this first quarter of the season? So first 6 games. If they go 3-3, or do they have to go 4-2 for you to be like, they're gonna be there?
let's. I want to just quickly try and check up their draw. They play Sydney in round 4 this week. Who are they on? They play Adelaide, which is another great matchup. I think this is going to be telling because Adelaide have also looked extremely well. And they're
Yeah.
actually also on my list here to discuss, okay, are they going to also make the 8? Because these two teams have been the surprise packets. Like Hawthorn are 3-0, but I think a lot of people expected Hawthorn to be 3-0 at the start of the year because of their momentum they had last year. But these two teams are like the surprise packets at the start. Look, it can go into the ground very, very quickly for either team. Like that's the joys of these first few rounds where you don't really know who is what. But Adelaide impressed. They look like they've got their shit together this year, which they didn't have last year, and North Melbourne as well. So this clash, I think this clash will tell us who is the real deal in this one
Mm.
and who isn't. Because North Melbourne versus Sydney, you got to expect Sydney. Like Sydney are on the ropes, but they're going to build momentum. Let's see, in round 5, Adelaide played Geelong. North Melbourne play the Suns in Melbourne. North Melbourne have beaten the Suns in Melbourne.
Yeah.
Good old Suns. I'm pretty sure that was a one of the losses that cost the Suns
A finals berth.
a finals berth because they lost to North Melbourne in Melbourne because they couldn't win away from home. So
Mm.
you can chalk that one up to North Melbourne as well. If they beat Adelaide, they're all of a sudden what 3-2 at worst if they lose to Sydney. So, they put
Wow.
themselves in a prime spot, and momentum and confidence is huge in sports, as we've seen. And I think in the AFL seasons, you go on runs, and if they can go
Yeah.
on a run at the start of the year, and all of a sudden they're sitting at 6-2 or 6-3, you're a shot. You can fall into a hole, and then you just need to have another little run at the end of the season, and you're in the mix.
Mm.
So,
Well, very interesting to see how
mm,
that kind of all plays out. What else you got on your cards?
Oscar Piastri. What an animal he was on the weekend. I was all over. I was on, like, the McLarens were too fast in Australia to go, okay, they're not going to be leading in China. But I don't think we expected Piastri to be as quick as he was.
Mm.
And obviously being Aussie, you want to back him, but I don't know. There's something. I'm sort of swapping ships because I was all about Lando Norris last week, I think, on the show. But it's like you see just more mongrel in Piastri. I think you see that sort of, he's cold. He's like Max Verstappen was at the start. He's just going to win. He's just going to race. You have interviews. He's got nothing to say. He was whinging about, like, literally how cold the weather was. They're like, "Oh, what did you do on the weekend?" Or when you have a weekend off. Well, at the moment I'm freezing, so I'm just gonna stay inside. Like, he's got, like, he's just a racer, like, no personality, just gonna race and just gonna win. And like, that team, they've said that it's all up in the air. And if he gets some wins, I wonder how long till they start playing team orders, because they don't want to fuck shit up like they did last year,
Yeah.
where Lando could have been a little bit closer if they just sorted out this team orders stuff a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
So, I
Yeah,
think
you've been high on the
he,
team orders thing all season, all it's only the second
yeah,
race, but that that'll come into contention, and whoever gets the best start will be the
mm,
favourable child going forward.
yeah, absolutely. And they need to sort it out, I think, early,
Mm.
because they don't want to cost each other points if they want to win a drivers' championship.
Yeah.
You can almost put the constructors' championship in the bag, because they seem to be so much quicker, unless something happens when there's some mid-season, updates.
Updates.
Like, they just look
Mm.
so much quicker. They've just got so much more pace than any other car.
I mean, I think he has the raw kind of power as a relatively new driver. So he's been
Mm,
there and done enough to know where he's at to race the tracks, but also he hasn't been there too long to be drawn into this is how you're supposed to do it. And this
mm,
is how you got to take your licks first, and you got to, like, exactly like Max Verstappen was. He
mm,
raced a bit and he's like, okay, I know what I'm doing now. Give me a shot and I'm going to win it all,
mm.
and I'm not going to stop
Yeah,
winning.
yeah.
And there's a massive. The car is obviously a really really big part of it, and he has the car. So,
Mm,
I mean, there's no barrier. His barrier is himself, and it's
mm,
maybe stupid mistakes that a young driver can make. But if
mm,
he can limit those mistakes, if he can have a good run of, some tracks that are dry and not too much, problems in qualifying, then he'll be sweet.
mm. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's himself, and yeah, this whole Norris team order stuff that's going to be
Yeah.
what stops him. So, interesting to see how it unfolds. But I guess what the big call is: Piastri world champion.
Oi.
Mm,
Why
maybe,
not?
if we're big calling, let's do it.
All right, let's take a quick break, come back, and get on this GPT KO.
Let's get
Okay.
ready to rumble.
I love it. Now,
Me too.
here I am talking to myself without having my sound on. Um, last week we had Verstappen and Russell dueling out. Verstappen was the victor. And the question is, who do we do this week? And like I
Mm,
said, there has been some news, and that is the contract saga of Daly Cherry Evans. Now,
mm.
it's not the first time this has happened. If you remember, you as a Titans supporter, it's etched in your memory, burned into your memory, the back foot. But
Wonder if he's playing the same card now. I wonder if he's just saying that he's not going to sign so they cash him up again in his final 2 years of his career.
But just like the whole circumstances of this is wild. Like his contract runs out at the end of this season. And like when this news broke, I said to you, like, Cherry Evans is out. And I was like, it can't be right. Like it's
no.
Yeah. And then we didn't say anything, and then it's obviously been on live television. So for anyone that's missed it, his contract expires this season. So the end of this season. At the end of last season, Manly said, we'll wait and see if anybody else offers you a contract, and we'll see if we match it. And nobody offered him a contract. So then Manly said, okay, well, we'll give you a year. And like, that was pretty much it. Well, that's from what he said. And he was like, well, I don't like that. It's not like I've been here for so long. It's not a good contract. I don't want that. And then he made a decision. He's like, okay, well, I'll leave. And then he said that, and then it's become this thing. He was live on TV, and the GM or the dude, the CEO or whatever, was messaging Buzz and I think Braith on TV. It's like, oh, tell him
trying to give him
a 2-year deal. Like,
yeah.
Oh, crazy.
And
trying to put him
like,
in.
Like it's a 2-year deal. The deal was even a rubbish deal. Like if we were discussing this earlier, where it's like, okay, when we were talking about the whole Dylan Brown thing and everybody being worth over $1 million, good halfbacks. Cherry Evans is still the Queensland origin halfback. He's still one of the premium halfbacks, right? Like in the league, and they want to give him $700,000 a year. Like, and you've got these kids that are getting like what 1.3 a year, 1.2 per year. Yeah. It's like half price. Like 1.4, you want him to stay, give him 1.4 each year for 2 years.
Yeah.
That's a on live TV contract that, an offer he can't refuse. So
Dolphins are going to nab him. Anyway, so that is all kind of played out, and you've heard some rumblings that maybe it has to do with Anthony Seibold.
Yeah, like I've heard that there's a riff there with Anthony Seibold. Like this is rumor. Don't get me wrong, but it is rumor that I think can be very valid. Like there's rumor that he hasn't been in agreement there with Anthony Seibold and how long he's going to be a part of the team and what their development is, and that he's taken a little bit of an unliking to that. But I think it's also been with the management, like you said earlier. It's part of it is that, and a part of it is that he expected them to play the aggressor a little bit more or give him a deal, and they're just trying to, all right, we'll see how this year goes. So I think it is a bit of a mix, but the root of the rumor is that it is coming all from Anthony Seibold. So let's match these two guys up.
Yeah,
naturally.
Let's do it. So we see down the bottom left corner, they are on the left-hand side of the bracket. So they could eventually match up with a... I don't really know how this works, but you see the bracket there. It's in front of your eyes.
Yeah.
Let's go to our ever faithful PT. It's time for our next matchup. NRL theme. There have been rumours that Daly, Cherry Evans and Anthony Seibold have a rift, and this is therefore the Australian halfback has chosen to not renew his contract at Manly. These are our next candidates. Written his name wrong. There we go. Let's see what they say.
Have you not test run this?
I never test run them anymore.
Oh, all right. The rift becomes the rumble.
Things have been brewing at Manly, and now it spills into the GPT KO arena. Teammates no more. It's coach versus captain, brains versus brawn, and tactics versus talent. Let's see who survives this Sea Eagles civil war. That's your
Whoa.
headline, boss. Sea Eagles
Whoa.
Civil War.
There you go.
DCE 35, 183, 87 kg, and an 18 centimeter neck. Silky halfback with surprising toughness. Footy IQ through the roof and one of the best sidesteps in the business. Been through plenty of battles, both on and off the field.
Ooh.
Seibold,
Little
49.
backstory.
Yeah. Same height, 183. Bit tubbier, 100 kgs. Got a gut on him, old boy. Former forward turned tactical general. He's got the size advantage. Would love to grind this one out like an old school forward pack war. Might try to outcoach his way through this. I'm sensing a theme here. Athleticism. Cherry Evans stayed in peak condition, still captaining Queensland, playing like a man 5 years younger. Seibs.
True.
Now GPT's given nicknames.
Yeah.
Has the X-forward frame, doesn't move like he used to. Seibold has a clipboard. DCE's been orchestrating wins on the field for over a decade. He knows how to read an opponent like a defensive line.
Man, this stuff is so good. Like, you can't write this better.
No.
Like,
emotional edge. So this is personal. DCE feels betrayed and he's coming in with something to prove. Laser focus could tip the balance.
You can feel where this is going up.
Well, yeah, you think so, but it could throw a curveball. Start slow. Seib's trying to control the pace, maybe even pull a few sneaky plays out of the coaching manual. But DCE weathers it, waits for the opening, then steps, dummies, and bang! Lands the killer combo. Daly, Cherry Evans, via unanimous decision, outsmarts, outlasts, and outshines his old coach. Seibold walks away with a clipboard full of regrets.
Whoa. What a story. Make a movie out of it. This was the best one, for sure. It's really learning. That's the joys of ChatGPT. It's going to get better and better, tell the story. It knows exactly what we want. It's in our brains.
It's fantastic. I love it.
Insane. That was so good.
Now I'm not going to be able to speak for the rest of the day because I've used all my speaking energy to narrate.
Well worth it. Well worth
100%.
it. You did a good job.
100%.
I think the husky voice made that even a better story tell. We put some music and some highlights in there. It would have been perfect. It's almost like a movie trailer when you got a voice like this.
Yeah, I was like channeling Transformers and the Let's Get Ready to Rumble dude that you kind of gave at the beginning.
Wicked.
Still a bit to go,
well
but
done.
on the way.
Yeah.
All right, let's wrap it up. All done for today. Don't forget to follow us all on the socials. Check out bets.com.au as well. Some great game previews. We're good at betting, I promise.
Yeah, definitely. And just remember, hang with us. Stay ahead of the game.